We're now focusing on one key state of Tamil Nadu. The stage is set for a mass electoral battle in Tamil Nadu, the first major poll after the demise of Dravidian stalwarts Jayalalitha and Karunanidhi. Taking guard this time are two grand alliances, one led by the AIADMK and the BJP and the other by the DMK and Congress, that will go head-to-head for 38 parliament seats in the state. But this is just half the story. Another equally important by-election battle is taking place in 18 assembly constituencies that could potentially unseat the incumbent ADMK government in the state. To discuss this and more, we're joined by Narayan Lakshman, Associate Editor at The Hindu. He joins us on the phone line from Chennai. We'll also be joined by Dhanya Rajendran, Editor-in-Chief of the News Minute from Bangalore. Narayan, thank you so much for joining in. How would you describe the contest this time? A few months ago, this was pitched as a sweep for the DMK. But in the last couple of weeks, you get the feeling that the AIADMK is putting up a formidable fight.
That's absolutely right. I think they are coming back from a position of what many consider to be weakness initially, because, as you know, since the demise of Jayalalitha, the former chief minister, the party itself was fragmented internally, and the faction that then became the AIADMK under TTV Dinakaran and the influence of the Sasikala clan, that further weakened the prospects of the AIADMK. So they were coming from a position of being an underdog, but having made this alliance with the BJP in particular, which is not yet a force in Tamil Nadu, but obviously a very major force at the national level, they have come back. They've risen in the ranks of the parties that can mount a credible challenge. And of course, they do still have a remnant of a network that was there when Jayalalitha was holding the reins. The question for them now is, will E. Palaniswamy be able to command that kind of control over his own party cadre and mobilize their supporters across the state in a manner that delivers results on the ground? And there they will face challenges from the AIADMK. Of course, they will face very severe challenges from the DMK, which is always in pole position. And so it will really vary a lot depending on which constituencies you're looking at going forward.
Dhanya Rajendran from the News Minute also joins in. Dhanya, thanks so much for joining in. How would you describe these elections or this contest? Is this momentum in favor of the DMK Congress, or do you think this is going to be a close call?
No, I think the momentum is definitely in favor of the DMK. There are quite a few factors which contribute to it. One is, of course, the anti-incumbency against the state government. There is the anti-incumbency against the central government. And, of course, Narendra Modi himself, which I think is unique to Tamil Nadu in many ways. There are a couple of other factors. For example, the AIADMK vote, we think, may get split by TTV Dinakaran's AIADMK. That could also work in favor of the DMK, while the DMK's root vote, the core vote does not change. The AIADMK's vote can get split between them and the AIADMK. So all that together, I think the situation is definitely favorable for the DMK. And for the party itself, it's not just about the 38 seats which are going to polls, right? It's also about the 22 by-polls which are taking place simultaneously. So on May 23rd, if the DMK can actually manage to win all those 22 by-poll constituencies, then they can topple the government. So for Tamil Nadu, these elections has a really greater implication. And for Stalin, I guess, if he is not able to convert all that is going in favor of his party into actually winning majority of the seats, I think that would reflect really badly on Stalin.
Narayan, I'm going to come to Stalin in just a moment, but Narayan, the point about AIADMK and TTV Dinakaran factor, would he at best be a spoiler for the ADMK, or will his support actually translate into seats?
He will certainly be a spoiler for the AIADMK. I agree with what Dhanya just said as well. I think there are several spoilers. Kamal Hassan's party, while it's weak, he has some star power and he's thrown himself in the play. There are other parties as well, smaller parties competing. So yes, and given that there are multiple claimants to the AIADMK's core vote, and the AIADMK itself is in a weaker position than it was in 2016 or when Jayalalitha was around, that suggests that their vote will be eroded. There's no doubt about that. Now, the question is, which of these parties who are competing this time will be able to convince the people that they can deliver some measure of good governance, because honestly, that is the missing sort of a dimension of the whole dialogue around this election, which is governing a state which has faced innumerable problems and controversies. You can look at the Sterlite issue in Thoothukudi. You can talk about drinking water crisis. You can talk about so many things. The overall atmosphere of, which has not been conducive to industries and industries fleeing to neighboring states. All of this matters to the people of Tamil Nadu in the future. And really the question is, can either of these parties, both of which face considerable weaknesses or, sort of chinks in their armor, can they convince the people, or have they already convinced the people that they are the ones who can deliver a solid governance agenda? I think that is going to be the thing that is playing on a lot of people's mind, because since that power vacuum has emerged in the demise of Jayalalitha and Karunanidhi, the people of this state for the first time have a chance to actually vote on policy issues. And I think we could be witnessing a shift in that regard.
Dhanya, what is the DMK really going to the people? Is the DMK raising these issues, or is the DMK, cornering, using the double anti-incumbency factor? What is, Stalin going to the people? At the end of the day, this is an election for the DMK to win, isn't it?
Well, yes, this is definitely an election where Stalin has to prove that he can swing the voters, because in Tamil Nadu, 80% of elections, we have seen the electorate either going in one direction or the other. Either of the Dravidian parties have always swept the polls. So are we going to see a repeat this time? Can Stalin manage that? The DMK, of course, has been asking for votes mainly on two plans. One is they are saying that the Edappadi Palaniswamy government is a corrupt one. And of course, they are taking up the Thoothukudi Sterlite killings, the Salem highway project, the Salem-Chennai expressway, which has now been stayed by the Madras High Court. They are talking about pollution, rampant industrialization, and many other issues which the DMK has been talking about against the state government. On the other hand, the DMK is also saying that this vote for a DMK is also a vote against Narendra Modi and the central government, which has really done damage to federalism, to the concept of federalism in the country. They are, of course, raking up the issue of NEET. They have promised in their manifesto that they will do away with NEET. So the DMK is saying that if you vote for the AIADMK, that also necessarily means you vote for Narendra Modi. And in that way, you're endorsing the central government policies of demonetization, of having an examination like NEET. So DMK has been asking for votes at two different levels, one against the AIADMK and one against the BJP.
Narayan, that's the interesting point here. I understand the need for the BJP to tie up with the ADMK. The ADMK, at the end of the day, had about 37 seats last time. It's still a formidable force in Tamil Nadu. But the Modi government hasn't been seen favorably by the people of Tamil Nadu at all. So why does the AIADMK need the BJP in this context?
Well, that is the billion-dollar question here, because basically you have Tamil Nadu now in a position where its very politics is up for grabs. So in one sense, these two Dravidian major parties have had the sort of a vice-like grip over the politics of the state since 1967, when the Congress was unseated from power. And they have permanently managed to control the reins of power through their own grassroots sort of networking and campaigning and mobilizing abilities. Now, for the first time, you're seeing a change in that in the absence of these two leaders. And at the same time, you have to remember the context of the Dravidian movement itself, which in its early radical days in the 50s and 60s was seen as a movement that was against sort of North Indian politics, Hinduism even, or rather Hindutva politics, against the North, the influence of the South, Hindi imposition, all of these issues were there. Now, that format or the emphasis of the Dravidian movement has certainly changed a lot over the past number of decades. And today it is far more accommodating of a number of issues. But at the same time, it is a bit of an acid test for the BJP and Mr. Modi's brand of politics to see whether a state like Tamil Nadu is now receptive to those kinds of ideas, political and collective ideas. And I think this election will tell us a lot about it because, as Dhanya mentioned, there are some issues such as concrete issues on the ground, such as NEET and so forth. It can be taken as a referendum on demonetization. But at the same time, it is also about what do the people of this state think about Hindutva politics, about Hindu-Muslim conflicts, about the questions of communalism, or secularism? What does this mean to the people of Tamil Nadu? We can read a lot into these results, and I do think that the BJP in particular will be watching very closely to see whether its strategies to try and build inroads into the state on the back of the AIADMK has been successful or not.
So you also have a bunch of smaller parties, an influential one at that. There is Vijayakant's DMDK, there is Ramadas's PMK. Do they continue to have sway over their vote banks, or do you think that's up for grabs?
No, I think these parties have shrunk in the last few years. For example, Vijayakant's DMDK, which debuted with around 10% vote percentage, has really dwindled its presence in most constituencies. So as far as the PMK is concerned, they are in the one-year belt. The DMK is relevant only in certain constituencies. The same applies to a lot of other smaller parties which are there in both these alliances, the VCK, the MDMK, etc. So none of these parties now can actually confidently say that they can win a seat if they stand alone. And that applies to the BJP and the Congress as well. Both the national parties have to piggyback on the Dravidian parties like the AIADMK and the DMK to win a single seat in Tamil Nadu. So the point is, all the other parties have actually gone down as far as voting percentages are concerned. They do not have second-rung leaders. Their main leaders, their charisma is waning out. So that is the same across parties in Tamil Nadu, which is why the alliance matters, the arithmetic of the alliance matters. And since I just want to answer a little bit quickly on what you asked last time, the last question that you asked, why would the AIADMK feel compelled to go with the BJP? That's really something which no one has an answer for, including the AIADMK leaders. When the alliance talks happened, a lot of AIADMK leaders were against such an alliance because they knew that going with the BJP may work against them. I would say first, it's a lack of confidence within the AIADMK leaders. You don't have someone like a Jayalalitha who's going to tell the BJP, I don't want to be part of your alliance. I remember clearly in 2009 and 2014, there was a lot of pressure on Jayalalitha to join the BJP's alliance, but she said no, she's not going to join the alliance. She believed that she would perform well by her own. So that confidence is missing in the current crop of leaders. The second thing is the fear that if the BJP comes back to power and the AIADMK had not been in alliance with them, then the BJP would use departments like the Income Tax Department or the ED, etc., to actually go behind these leaders. That's really the fear, I think, which drove a lot of AIADMK leaders to agree for the alliance.